Yo, it's Thursday. It's Thursday. All right. As you may have noticed, it's a little lighter than it usually is around the time that we meet. Okay. But sorry, I was making sure our microphone was actually on. You know, we gotta make sure. But this is a very special episode, people. Okay, and we want to make sure that we can get it in where we fit in. All right. So whenever you're watching this, hello, bonjour, etc., etc., etc. Pammy, do you want to say something to the people?
April's almost over. I just want to say we are marching through the month very quickly, through the year. So
2024 got somewhere to be. So
I don't know about y'all, but
we'll respect it.
Hear me low.
But we're not gonna be over on things. That was really not positive, but okay. Anyway, listen.
It's a truthful chat. I'm being truthful.
That's fine. As we've been discussing, if you've been here, we are in a sermon series. I'm just playing. We are discussing the tenets of creating generational wellness. What does that mean? We're gonna get into it today. I told you, we all about melanin and degrees this month. Okay, so we've been listening to us for quite some time, tell you some things, and you like, I don't know what qualifies this Black woman and her mom to be sitting here giving me advice. Well, here we go. We done found melanated folks with degrees to vouch for what we've been telling you, so you know we're not just making it up. Okay. So we have another incredible guest with us today. So if you want to find out more about this, you should stick around. Okay.
April is therapist month.
It's therapist month. Okay.
We're going to get you some help. We've been telling you need to get
you some other voices.
We're going to show you what help looks like.
So if that's you should stick around because this episode is definitely for you.
Hi, I'm Pam Williams, a mother.
And I'm Jessica E. Williams, a daughter. And this is a mother and a daughter truthful chat, where we discuss our 35-year multi-layered relationship.
We've been through so many ups and downs. Not only are we family, but we're business partners in the high-stress world of event planning and production for short films.
We've also shared the same therapist for over 10 years. What some people call codependence, we call collaboration.
So join us as we share stories from our lives,
have candid conversations with other mother-daughter duos,
and shed light on the roller coaster ride of being a woman while raising a woman.
Jumbo. You know what time it is. I realized I did French and I was like, we gotta get something Black in here. So Jumbo. Hi, Swahili. Welcome to Truthful Chats. If you're new here, that's what we do. We click cups at the beginning of the episode to welcome you. What's in your mug? Let us know what you're drinking.
I am drinking mango ginger tea. What are you drinking?
I'm drinking echinacea and elderberry because the germs are really real and I ain't got time. So there's that. All right, people. Welcome to Truthful Chats. If this is your first time joining us, we're so happy you're here. If you've been here, welcome back. Okay. Truthful Chats is our weekly podcast series that we do, okay, under the banner of Create Generational Wellness. If you're like, oh my God, I don't even know what that term means. That makes sense because we made it up. So you know what we always say. If you hear somebody out using Create Generational Wellness in the streets and it's not us, you know what to do. Look if you buck, right? Look if you buck. Anyway, if you have no idea what that term means, that's fine. Look for underneath wherever you're watching this video. There's a description of the term here. And so every month we have a theme. And then our Truthful Chats is where we unpack that theme just a little bit. So it is still April. It's weird because all the high holy holidays was not in April. So it's a leap year. Things are weird, but we're going with it. Okay. But it is still April. And I don't know if we have I guess therapy is the word, but it's not really the word. Anyway, we're reviewing the tenets of Create Generational Wellness. So
which we talked about last month.
Yes.
So if you don't know what the tenets are, go back, watch the March episodes, and you'll understand all the tenets.
I think it's 62, 63, 64, and 65.
Episode, yeah.
Because we wanted to explain, we've been, again, talking to you for over a year and some change now, but we wanted to explain what kind of person, the attributes or characteristics, if you will, of a person who is seeking to create generational wellness.
Running hard after generational wellness.
And so last week we had Dr. Jason Plunkett with us, going over You Are One of One. So you got to check out the episode, which was 62, I think. And then his episode is after that. So I think he's 66. But today, we on our second tenet, which is you bend, you don't break. Okay, so that's episode, I think that's Truthful Chats 63 is the original one. Just look for just go through them all, as my pastor says. Read the whole Bible, it's in there. Do the whole podcast, it's in there somewhere. But today we have just an incredible spirit, incredible soul.
A light. You'll see as soon as she comes on. It's like, oh, light. You'll see.
Literally. A family friend, an auntie, a sister, from the great city of the Shy. You know what I mean? Shout out to the Shy. And she's gonna come and she's gonna grace us with her presence. She is a licensed marriage family therapist. Okay, so all of your familial issues that we constantly talk about at the show, she can help you with. Okay, and we'll make sure you have all her info and all that stuff. So please, ladies and gentlemen, start clapping right now. Not now, but right now. Okay, for Tiffany Shanks. Welcome to the podcast.
Hey, we're so happy.
Hello. Thank you for having me. You guys are great, I have to say. Thank you.
No, you are great. Okay, you are great.
We have a good time. That's all we do.
Love to the family.
Yours as well.
Oh, wait, you have a mug.
You have a mug.
What are you doing?
Yes.
What are you drinking today?
Real talk, water, because I'm fully fasting for my doctor's appointment in a couple hours.
Oh, okay. Good.
Hydrate.
I love that cup. Melanin therapist. Yeah.
Yes.
Melanated.
She's on theme. Didn't I tell you? Melanated therapist. Melanin degrees. Melanin and degrees. Speaking of degrees, this is a segment that we just started because we have people with clinical degrees. So this is degree bragging. We would like, this is where you get to just flex. Okay. What qualifies you to be on this here podcast talking to the people? When people don't like to do this, I understand. When it's what you do, you just feel like it comes naturally. I don't want to talk about it, but this is your segment where you get to brag on why you are a dope melanated therapist. Whenever you're ready.
So, I have a master's in psychology with an emphasis in marriage and family therapy.
Excellent.
I have been licensed as a marriage and family therapist in the state of California since 2014. I have community health and in private practice, which I currently run now. And I'm also a professor of in a marriage and family therapy program, the school in which I attended, Phillips Graduate Institute. I'm teaching family systems to first semester students.
Oh my goodness. What is family system?
Explain that.
So it's literally a class about family therapy and the different theories, or about 5 different family therapy systems or theoretical approaches that clinicians use when working with families, couples, and sometimes individuals.
Okay. So a whole family can go to therapy.
Is that what you're saying?
Absolutely. Absolutely.
That your whole family can
Your
go to
whole
therapy.
family can go to therapy, and probably should.
And should. I
probably should.
It's happening already. The high lines. And probably should. Okay?
And probably should.
As we
Yes.
discussed on
Especially if you want to create some generational wellness. You got
Especially if
all
you
the people in it.
Mhm.
Yes.
Gotta get all the people. Because if it's just you, you're on an island by yourself. And we talk about that. Sometimes you have to be, because everybody ain't ready. Everybody's not ready to go. But if you start, right, then perhaps the other people will join you.
Yes. And family therapy does not take away from doing the individual work, right? Even
One
in
more
family
time,
therapy.
on the back. One more time.
Even in family therapy, you got to do your work as an individual family member, as an individual in society, as a Black individual.
Come on.
All the things, you have to do your individual work. But reality is, we were all born into a unit and into a system, and that system has parts. We all make it up, and we all play our part in how that system operates and is organized. So that's where family therapy comes in handy.
Ooh, I feel like we're gonna be getting deep today. Okay, so I was like, oh, it's deep already. So you bend, you don't break, is our second tenet. And so that is the idea of like, as we say often, life be life in, right? This, what you're talking about in terms of being born
Part
into
of
a
family
unit
system,
or a family system. We are very big on systemic racism and things of that nature here at this podcast. Want to make sure we know the origins of things and don't just think like, oh, this is how I am, how I've always been. Like there are some factors at play. And so this is really just about learning or trying to be an individual, or think you need to be an individual that is flexible in some sort of way. You got to learn how to bend and move with the life situations and circumstances that have been presented to you. But the goal is to not break, okay? Not to let anything break you to the point that you are completely incapacitated, giving up.
Cue the Beyonce.
Cue the Beyonce. You don't break my soul. Shout out to the queen.
Amen.
Cowboy Carter is fabulous if no one has heard this.
This is what I'm hearing. I'm hearing. I've heard, let me see, 3 now. Three. Yeah. I'm in. I'm not a country music girl, but I'm in.
But it's not really a country album. As Beyonce album. Okay.
Yeah.
There's some country records. Shout out to the genre. But
right.
Anyway, segue. You know we promote her here. Anyway, so in your professional opinion on You Don't Break My Soul, what is sort of the connection, or is there connective tissue in the psychological world between flexibility and resilience? Like how do those go hand in hand? How does being able to do that help you throughout your life experiences and set circumstances?
Right. So, to be very honest, I don't think you can have one without the other. Right. I think in order to be resilient, you have to be flexible. You have to be open to change, open to managing the unforeseen. I think, and then opposite that, right? I think what makes us resilient is being able to be flexible. That's the whole thing. Being able to overcome, being able to, when that thing come knock you upside your face that you didn't even see coming, even though you just looked left and right and it still came. You got to be able to move with it and say, oh, okay, this is what we're doing, which may not have been what you thought you was doing yesterday.
Yeah.
So the flexibility is necessary. I mean, nothing is the way, most things I should say are not the way we think they're going to be or we plan for them to be. They're always and only God's way. And sometimes they just don't be the same.
A whole word already. So this is the skill. It's a life skill. It's not just a create generational wellness specific skill. It is if you want to have a better quality of life, you better learn how to be flexible and resilient, and the two correlate, which is.
And I have to say, if I think about my caseload currently, I never thought of it this way, obviously, but until this and seeing these terms and hearing these terms together like this. But I do probably I'm probably treating a lot of individuals that are suffering with being flexible. They're very inflexible, right? Whether it's, personality traits, right? Very type A and just used to handling situations, whether that comes from being parentified as a child, whether that's a single parent, whether that, whatever the reasons.
Just used to getting it.
Just used to getting it done, and therefore struggling with seeing the ability to get it done, requiring you to be flexible. It's just the two just don't go together, but they do.
Yeah. So we talk a lot about this here on the podcast about being open to change and understanding that it's scary and there are steps to it and it may not feel comfortable, but it's absolutely necessary. So we'll get a little personal and then you can talk overall too. Can you give us an example of an instance in your life where it was hard to change? You were resistant to the change, and how did you embrace it and then go through it and get to the other side? Like what steps did you take when something came personally that was hard for change?
I think what's probably coming up for me first, because I'm certain there are several examples I can give. But what's coming up for me first and more personal will probably be our move, me and my family's move from Chicago to Los Angeles. Yeah, 20 years ago now. But my husband was chasing a dream and following his passion, and leaving what one in a different generation, which I was probably a part of that at that time, felt like a stable job. My kids were young. My father was deceased at that point, so my mom was by herself, and I was like, and you want me to do what? When? How? Literally, how? What are we doing? So that I was really, really resistant. And that was really difficult. But I love my husband. I support my husband. I believe in my husband. So here we are 20 years later and, doing great. But I think the way I ultimately dealt with it was I made a decision to say, if you're going to go, then I have to choose to do what comes along with that. So if you're gonna say, yes, I support you, babe, we could do this. Let's give it a shot. We got to have a plan, but let's give it a shot. And we did. We said we're gonna give it 5 years. We'll reassess after 5 years, and we'll go from there. Once we got here, it was hard. It was hard, guys. It's different. LA, the San Fernando Valley, all the things are very, very different from Chicago.
I can imagine.
The Black folks out here are different from those in Chicago. It was just different. But I feel like when I opened myself up to it and I said, well, we're here now. And what you're not going to do is flip and flop these kids and moving back and go and all the things. And you're going to give it their time. And you're going to set an example for them. My oldest, my bonus son, I'll call him, was entering 8th grade at the time. So he was well aware of what was going on. And we had to model things for him that we wanted, him to take with him later in life, see things through, do stuff even when it's hard and uncomfortable, not to give up on your dreams, pursue your dreams, all the things. So I feel like when I made up it took me a minute, took me a good minute, but when I made up my mind to do that and embrace what was great about being out here, the weather,
right,
all the things.
Yeah.
Right. The view. Exactly. Then I feel like there was a perspective that changed for me. So, and then 2 years later, I found a church home where I have met some of the most meaningful and special, including you and your family, people in my life that I would not give up that time for anything.
So I'm hearing communication.
I'm hearing so many things, right? Go
first. A good meeting, good powwow, being able to be ready to have the conversation. So did you make any lists, pros, cons lists? Like, was this just a mental exercise? Like, how did you get to that decision of did you pray about it?
Well, absolutely. I prayed about it. Yes, I did. I definitely did a pro and con list because that's what I do with everything. I'm looking literally behind you guys at a whiteboard now of all the things. Yes, I would say, and you know what? You heard that. I don't even know if I mentioned it. Communication is so important, especially when there's any change that you're making that involves another person or persons in your life. If this is an individual change, then that's between you and your God. But because it included my family, I was very honest and upfront with my husband from the get-go, because I didn't want us out here trying to acclimate and adjust, and then I'm holding on to some stuff, or I'm holding some resentments, or I'm just not being authentic. And he doing the same, when he expressed the fears that he had, and the hesitancies and reluctancies that he had as well. I think that was very, therapeutic for us, very cleansing for us to both get those things out. And then we were able to carry the weight of those things together, and not me feeling like I got to do it over here and he got to do it over there. And, we got to pretend like we all good for these children. And, it didn't feel like that anymore. So communication, yes. Prayer, absolutely. First and foremost. I think recognizing what it means to be in relationship with someone, as an MFT, abbreviation for like marriage and family therapist. I'm a relational therapist. I work with people about their relationships with others, their relationship with themselves.
Mhm.
So there's a lot of emphasis and work that I do on that. So I think choosing to really, in Chicago, we had the comfort of our families and our friends that we've been around and grew up with and all the things. And that was a great support for us. And they still are, of course. But when we came out here, it was us and only us, until it wasn't, until God showed up and showed out.
Right.
But, and that I think really, really strengthened our union, because I literally felt like all I had was him.
It's leave and cleave in the very literal sense.
Literally.
Yeah, and it's cool to hear that y'all were having conversations with your kids about this, because I think sometimes people just like, okay, we leaving and that's it, and y'all gonna go along with it, and this is what it is. But to actually have that ongoing communication, to check in with them, to see what's going on, how they feeling, but also knowing there's an overarching goal, and like you said, to show them like we see things through to the end. We are going through rough patches, but we're not going to stay there. So I think all of that is definitely under the banner and moniker of how you create generational wellness.
Absolutely.
But communication is key.
Yeah. And the things I heard you say, Tiffany, were you made a decision, you chose to say, okay, if we're doing this, this is how we're doing it. We're going to make, and
we're big on executive decisions around here.
Yeah. So. And then you said, and then your perspective changed. So it's all the things that we kind of talk about. You have to make a decision. You have to choose how you're going to do it. You have to adjust your perspective at some point and then move forward with the plan. So thank you. That was really, really
loves it.
Lovely. Okay.
All right. Moving on. So when we talk about, and we've talked about this a little, but uncertainty, fears, this whole not being flexible because there are fears involved, lack of control involved, right? And you sort of have talked about this about your own personal story, but like, how important is it to identify very specifically as possible, like, what are the fears? What am I feeling the lack of control about? And what exercises would you kind of like, or do you recommend to your clients when you see that sort of a roadblock they're coming up against that they may or may not realize? Like we tend to talk around the thing, but when we finally drill down to it, it's like, okay, I'm really afraid of this, or this kind of change is gonna make me, have a complete sort of lack of control in an area where I feel like I got it on lock. So what are some things you recommend for that?
Right.
So identify it first and then deal with it. Because I think the identification is probably the hardest part.
Right. So what I first heard you say was, how important is it? In my opinion, extremely important to be able to identify your fears, your feelings, your areas where you're feeling like you don't have control. We can't address anything that we don't acknowledge. So we have to be able to say, this is really important. This is really in the way. And so now what can I do? What do I need to do to get it out of the way? And I think that first starts with feeling identification, right? So we're quick to use some of the more common feeling words, if you will. I'm mad, I'm angry, scared even, but scared is a little bit more of an underlying emotion under anger and under being mad, let's say. So, and I know you guys have seen it, and there are tons and tons of them out there, but there is a feeling wheel that I literally have at my reference at all times, right? I have encouraged clients to put it on their refrigerator, put it in their bathroom, wherever they need to look at it, and turn to it. And when you're trying to find the truest word for what it is that you're experiencing, and you're having difficulty doing that, turn to that wheel. And as you guys know, and I wish I had one in front of me right now, but as you guys know, it's literally a wheel. So we start in the inner part of the circle with general feeling words, and then it expands out some of the feelings that are more specific to what's underneath those center feelings. Right. And I think that's really, really helpful. I've had clients and myself, let's be clear, look at that wheel and say, no, I'm not angry. I'm feeling intimidated, or I'm feeling threatened, or I'm feeling some lack of peace about something, or and even and the same thing can be very helpful when you're trying to identify positive feelings, right? Sometimes it's like happy. What does happy mean? Tell me what you feel. Are you proud? Are you calm? Are you restful? Like
Satisfied,
what so really define what you feel and what you're experiencing. And then, I'm really big on journaling, because write about it. Write about what's coming up. Write about it. And we don't have to just journal about the bad stuff and what's not working. There are power in words. And you can't tell me your words are not the most powerful to you. Right? I think a lot of people convince themselves that it's what they hear. I heard this one time, or somebody one time told me this. And listen, that's real. I'm not taking away like what you say to words hurt, words build, words encourage, words tear down. Right. So I think we should all be careful with our tongue and how we say things to ourselves and other people. But more importantly, it's what you say to yourself. So journal about the good times. I'm huge and big on gratitude journaling, all the things. Look back at your words. Let that be a reference and a place that you go. There was a time I felt this. There was a day I felt this, and that felt great. Let me go back to that. So, being able to identify the feelings, being able to write about or identify or talk about with yourself or with some other, be that a professional or otherwise, right? But identifying a support system, right? You have to know that we're not meant to do all these things alone, right? Yeah. For some of us, a professional, if you will, or someone that they're not so intimately connected to might feel safer when it comes to some things. And for a lot of people, that's what therapy is. I hate that therapy has this stigma attached to it. And I'm not trying to sell nobody or me, believe me, but I hate that therapy has this stigma attached to it that you either crazy or, I'm not telling somebody my business. I don't know. I'm what go on in this house, stay in this house, all the things we all heard at some time in our generation or another. Cool thing about therapy is that if it go on in your house and you sell it in therapy, it's going to stay in your house too, because the therapist can't say nothing to nobody. So there's that. But at least you have a different perspective of someone that is not attached to you in any personal way that can maybe help, bring light to something, help you identify patterns, help you identify thought processes, and, if they're really helpful or harmful. So, and then there's the support system of your loved ones and of people close to you. We oftentimes, especially I think as Black people, we don't want to burden others, and we know the weights that we carry on a constant. So we don't want to lean on others. We think that is an imposition in some way. And that I'm certain is the enemy, because I don't know not one person, not one Black person that is not like, I see you and let me be there for you. Yeah, I'm here for you, especially if you're in relationship with these people. So we have to identify a support system. You have to identify things that make you feel good about who you are, right? Yeah. So when these feelings of insecurity and fear and lack of control and what isn't working, when they feel like they're overtaking you, and now you're looking at yourself a little funny, you got to ground yourself again, right? So a lot of times that happens in prayer, obviously, that, asking the Lord to settle you, to rest your heart, to bring the calm, to identify what's getting in the way. But I think sometimes that could also be in going for a walk, and getting some fresh air, right? And clearing your mind of some things. That could be working out for some people. That's it ain't for everybody. Listen.
Hello.
Listen,
we had that conversation.
Listen, I just got here though. I have to say, guys, I've been working out now for 3 years consistently.
Yay.
That's what I've been doing.
Hand claps for that.
Yes, I know, right? Thank you. I appreciate that.
Consistency is the only cheat code.
Consistency, that's it. So, you know, I think it's finding ways of figuring out how you can release actually the way your body responds to the feelings that you experience, right? I'm imagining somewhere in this, we're probably going to get to anxiety and
the next
things.
question.
Right. So obviously that's what I think those feelings do. And that's what they bring up for you.
And I'm glad you said that though, because we do talk a lot about just the brain chemistry that happens with these things, fight, flight, freeze, fawning, which Dr. Plunkett taught us last week. And then how when your nervous system is going through something, right? Those are all the feelings that you're feeling, you know, that's what causes the anxiety, shortness of breath, brain fog, all of that is your body's, you know, biochemical response to what they, you know, your brain feels as a threat or something you just need to survive or get through. So we definitely have a lot of those conversations when it comes to fear, lack of control, uncertainty. All these things are really just actually your body doing what it's naturally designed to do.
Right.
Just like, okay, you're not supposed to stay there though. Like
right.
Also be able
it's like a little warning, you know.
Like what's going on, but okay, let me see what we got to do next. Like what are the next steps? Not to just stay there. So thank you for tapping on that.
So continue there. Talk, you know, uncertainty goes along with change. That produces anxiety. So
don't worry about the babies. We don't worry.
Talk about the signs when your anxiety is getting out of control. Like, how do you know that, okay, this is beyond regular?
Because we always say there's a healthy dose of anxiety, right? There's a healthy dose of anxiety.
Right. Yes.
To have as a human.
And I'm thankful for it, because if it were not for that healthy dose of it, how would you know that your body is experiencing these things, right? Or that these things are coming up for you. I think some degree of anxiety is healthy, is normal, and I'm grateful for. To your point, yes, it can get to a point and get to a level where it is interfering with your ability to function. It is causing you to make certain decisions or to, you know, show up in the world in a different way or not show up in the world in a certain way. And I think when that happens, right, I think it's important to pay attention to what your symptoms are. I do think it is important to look into that professionally. And that's not just necessarily going the therapeutic route, but also go to the doctor. Just make sure. Go over what you're experiencing. Go over the symptoms, especially if they're becoming very persistent, right? If they are lingering, we don't know, right? And so if something else is going on with us internally or medically, we want to have that identified first, right? So I will say, if you're feeling like you're experiencing these things, any of them, right? The shortness of breath, the racing heartbeat, the foggy brain, the sweating sometimes, take into account all the things, but don't make sure you rule out that it is not some condition that might be trying to creep its way in, right? And if that has been determined, now, you know, you might, once that's determined, you might have a medical professional that's like, well, nope, it's not anything of any major concern in that way. So here you go. I'm going to write you a prescription. Hey, we have psychotropic medication for a reason. It serves its purpose. If it is deemed necessary, please do, by all means. They are the professionals and the experts for that reason. I also think, though, get to know yourself and the changes that your body is going through. So what I tell people when they are prescribed medication is you can't rely solely on your medication. There's still things that you need to do. That's just like if we get in a car accident and we break a body limb, we got to go to physical therapy, right? Yeah, we go to the doctor, they put it back together, we get a cast, they do all the mending, but we have to learn how to reuse that limb, that arm, that leg, that whatever. So the same for our mind and our emotions. So it's not just, I'm gonna just take this pill. every morning or every night. It's going to get me through the day. Let me deal with what's causing this anxiety in the first place, or whatever this is that I'm, experiencing. So once again, I'm going to recommend therapy. I'm also going to recommend that you find the things that bring you some sort of calm to whatever experiences that you're feeling. Anxiety oftentimes is something that's feeling like it's trapped in your body that can't get out. So you have to find healthy ways for it to get out, which is a lot of what we talked about before, right? The physical things that you can do, whether that's going for a walk, going for a run, working out, taking time to shut down. This here. Let me tell y'all something. Let me tell y'all something about these devices. They can cause so much anxiety in and of themselves.
Come on.
The way we scroll, the way we self-diagnose because of that thing called the internet, like all these things. And so I tell my clients all the time, our phones at some point need to be charged. At some point, they even need to be plugged back into some source of energy so that they can function the way that they were designed to function. When we are at 10% on our phone and we plug it up and we keep doing what we're doing, we're plugged into a source, yes, and we keep doing what we're doing, we're charging so much slower than if we just plug that thing up and leave it be. So sometimes, all the time, we got to figure out how we can just plug ourselves up and then rest.
Yes, God.
And then just leave it be. Like, we don't have to be doing 17,000 things all at one time. Black women, Black men, we don't have to do that. We can stop and say, you know what? I can rest. I can breathe. Breathing is a real thing, y'all. Breathing. Like, I know we doing it every day, all day, if we here and living and functioning. I get it. But to be intentional about your inhales and your exhales, to take them in deeply, you can do that no matter where you at, no matter how much time you got. It don't cost you nothing.
$3.99.
But free 99. But you got to pay attention to your body and what it needs. When your body is telling you it's tired of sitting, get up and stand, walk.
Yeah.
Like your body, it alerts you, much like anxiety. Your anxiety is alerting you about what your mind and your feelings are experiencing. And you have to stop and you have to listen to it and give it the things that it needs. And that can look different for everybody. I get so many people tell me, well, somebody tell me, I have got so many people, journaling don't do it for me. Okay. Then what does do it for you?
Right.
Let's figure it out. What does do it for you?
And to me, if journaling doesn't do it for you, I think sometimes people are not honest in their journaling. They're writing, they journal.
Because they're afraid someone's going to see it.
Right.
So they're like, let me write it.
They say they journal.
Right.
What if something happens to
me?
They
use filters, and that defeats the whole purpose.
Yeah. Yeah. Shouldn't filter.
And I've heard things as simple as, or things like, what am I writing? Who is it to? What is it? And if it's not something that you're familiar with, or when you're doing it for the first time, that's the thing. It's no right or wrong way to do it. You're just releasing.
Yeah.
You're just putting it all on paper. I guess I could say journaling started for me after I went through a very long stint of grief after losing my father. And then I started writing letters to him. That's where it really started to me. I would literally sit down and be like, dear Dad, in my mind, he don't know what's going on. He not here no more. So I'm talking, dear Dad, this. That's where it started for me. Then it since, of course, has evolved into something so much more. But it's important.
Wonderful way to deal with grief.
Start where you are. I like
that. This is where you are.
And, you got to be creative. You got to get a little imaginative. You got to know yourself a little bit to be like, okay, that's not working, but let's try something else. You got to be a little courageous, creative, all of the things. Okay?
So, given we live in America and there's some trauma that goes along with being Black in America. And so in our February episodes, we usually try to do something Black history related. And so we talked about the survival of Black men and women, like you were saying, feeling like you have to do 2,700 things is probably a carryover of that.
Definitely a holdover from slavery.
Survival. This could happen, that could happen. A lot of it had to do with our ability to survive in this country, where we had to figure out what our ancestors had to do, and that kind of, carried over down into us. So growing up in environments like this for several generations, things have been passed down that were more survival mechanisms than actually wellness. And then you mix in the trauma and the abuse and the poverty and the systemic racism in Black Americans. So I always say, as a Black person, you have to deal with being a human, and then you have to deal with being a Black person in America, and the set and whatever that stacks on top of what you're already dealing with. So
white supremacy is a universal concept. So we just,
yeah,
where if you Black anywhere in this world, you deal with some level of what it means to be a Black human in a system created for the others. So
can you talk a little bit about how you see that in your practice? How the trauma and resilience thing is like how does it relate specifically in the Black community?
So, when I think of this, I think about the pandemic. Just that's what comes to my mind in this very moment, because of what we know was happening in our country during the pandemic. And I hadn't ever experienced in my practice so much of race and politics in our country, and all the things, the way our government does things, the way people were showing up at the time in America, which they had always been doing. Is just with the leadership as it was, a lot of things became a lot more forefront, right? So I literally went from February in 2020, seeing clients about whatever brought them into therapy, their relationships, their families, their marriages, their children, their whatever, to now we're going to talk about who's in office.
George Floyd.
What all George Floyd, absolutely, and what all that's bringing up. And it was a big shift, right? Because as a therapist, we are a blank slate when it comes to things, right? I'm not giving my personal opinions about things. They're not, well, some of them were asking, and I'm just like, that's not why we're here. You have to say the politically correct things. The fact that that's even a term, right? Being politically correct, what does that mean?
Talk about it.
So anyway, I guess what I'm saying that brings me to is us then really, really going in about how people, and especially my clients of color, not just Black clients, but all of my clients of color, because as we know, the president at the time had his, feelings and things, and expressed things about all people of color and all people of all populations from all the things, right?
Correct.
Anyway, so what this did was, as it relates to my practice, what this did is cause us to go very much inward into what these people, what we all were experiencing in our families from generation to generation, what it means to us today, and how we now show up regardless of what's happening at the top in this country. And that was really hard because we had to take a look at character. People's faith was being questioned at that time, and probably still is. It's like I had clients tell me, if there is a God, how on earth could this be
happening?
Right. Literally, how what are we talking about? And so I think as Black people, though, and I don't know, might have ventured away. I think as Black people, we have to we have to embrace what we've been through. And I know that sounds like what you talking about, because embracing something doesn't mean I'm saying that it's okay, but I am saying that this is a reality.
It happened. And
it happened. And it has affected clearly who I am today. And it's going to affect who the next generations to come are going to be in the future, right? So when I say embrace it, I mean, for some, that's educating yourself. Because listen, we know we got people that just know what they hear. Right. And I think we sometimes as Black people need to do our own homework. And we need to dig a little deeper. We need to have those uncomfortable conversations. I have just a side note, I have this really big, huge paper that my class has to write. This is their first semester of grad school, right? It's called the Bowen paper. They're writing this on Bowen family systems theory. And this paper it goes really deep and in depth, and they are encouraged to talk to their family members and prior generations, if they're able, to help them get some of this information and really talk about some of these patterns in their family that they are now identifying and every time they hate it. And I said, but listen, we can't be no family therapists and we ain't done the work. We got to do the work too.
Well,
so I think a part of that is educating ourselves on our multi-generational process of everything that we've experienced, right? We can't close our eyes to things. We as families have a habit of encouraging, even if it's not having a conversation about it, secrecy, and we just gonna put that to rest. It don't matter. Everybody got something. You ask them something about they second cousin or they uncle's brother or they somebody. It's like, I don't know. They always said he was a little touched. Or maybe go back. What y'all mean by a little touch? What was wrong with him? Yeah, we also have the information now. I grew up in a time, y'all grew up in a time mental illness wasn't what it is today.
No.
We know some things now. We know better. We have more resources. So let's go figure this out. I don't think growing up, I knew what autism was. I never heard of it.
Right.
I'm sure you didn't. It's like,
or Asperger's or
Asperger's or any other things And listen, let me be clear. I'm not a fan of sticking no label on nobody, particularly people that look like us, which is also why I don't accept insurance anymore in my private practice, because in order to bill and be reimbursed, you have to give a diagnosis. And I'm not doing this for diagnosing people. It is a help. It is a roadmap for therapists so that we know how to help and assist our clients appropriately, right? But that's documented. And HIPAA, NIPA, SKIPA. I think if it's written down, it can be found.
It's on paper, it's trackable. You know what I mean?
So there's that. It follows you. So there's that. So anyway, I think it's doing the work. I think it's accepting and embracing who we are and finding a way to see it in a way that is more, I'm not going to say help enlightening or insightful or I'm not trying to, but that can help you define why you are who you are. Right. And so since you're able to do that, maybe being in relationships is difficult for you and being close or being intimate, even with a significant other, because maybe there's been some trauma, maybe there's been some abuse, maybe that happened in the home, maybe that we got to deal with that. We got to talk about that. We can't throw that under the rug anymore. Because that's going to continue to get in the way. That's going to continue to affect how you show up in all these other relationships. Hence the cycle that keeps going, that keeps repeating. Just like you all are creating, and we got this term now, this generational wellness, right?
Yes.
Well, we have other generational stuff that if we don't address it, it's going to continue in generations to come.
Yep. Can't be well.
And I think what's so important is the embrace part, because we've had conversations with people who are African American or of other Black persuasions, and they just want, especially in the Obama years, right? They wanted everybody to feel like y'all want to be post-racial so bad. And then the white lash of Donald Trump came, and y'all was like, "What happened?" And I was like, "America," you know what I'm saying? Like this is this what it is. You know what I mean? I used to tell
Mhm.
people, I said, and I was probably one of the only people that was saying Donald's gonna win. And people was like, no, we're better than this. I said, Obama is who we aspire to be as a country, but
Mhm.
Donald is really the underdog.
Is who we are.
That's where all the
Who
truth.
they are. That's this country, right? That's this
And
country.
if y'all want to get on that roller coaster ride again, more power to you. But most of us don't. But I think what you're saying in terms of embracing, because I think a lot of people look at the legacy of slavery with shame. And we used to talk about, even in the February episodes, like we would talk about family in Africa, what it was like prior to coming to the Americas. So we wanted to try to add some cultural context beyond like Black people didn't just start with slavery, right? But I think, to your point, embracing it as a point of resilience rather than a point of shame. And that we survived, right? Like she used to say, she was like, you know, when she was teaching me about slavery and I was having a hard time with it being the only Black kid in my class in the Valley, she was like, you know, the slaves that survived, you know, they cream of the crop, top tier. You know what I mean? You come from very strong people. And not that what they endured it wasn't right. No one's vouching for it, but you have to be able to frame that as a way of like, you come from strong people, therefore you are a strong person. That being said, there's probably some things in here that we need to address because that's just not the way we were supposed to be living. It's a system that is not right, that continues to persist to this day in various and insidious ways, because we always say on this show, white supremacy shapeshifts better than a transformer. Okay. It beats Optimus Prime. So you have to just be aware. And I think in terms of generational wellness, I don't care what kind of Black kids you got. They could be into all of the quote unquote white things. They could go to the most private school. Y'all could live in a gated community. They still gonna be Black at the end of the day. So
until they is not here no more.
Listen,
and after that, right.
Listen, whoever they marry, whatever families they in, like there's no real cloak for Blackness.
Right.
So it's just a matter of survival and preparation. And again, not just surviving, but we're in a place where we can thrive now that we have information. And if we not keeping secrets, all the things work together to be great.
And to just piggyback a little bit off of, you know, because of where we've come from and who our people and our ancestors are, we are strong. And I think sometimes we get tired of having to be strong. I get that, but that's all the things come in too, right? Where you got to that self-care part, right? Where you got to identify your feelings, you got to talk, you got to reset, you got to recharge yourself, right? Because we do have these times and moments where we gotta, it's enough, enough is enough, and I need a minute. But I also, it's a personal and I think professional goal of mine to dispel the belief that it is weak to deal with your stuff, to be vulnerable, to cry about what you've been through. To me, that takes more strength than half the stuff that we're doing every single day, all the time, right? To be able to really say, this is a part of my story and it feels horrible.
Right.
And it should not have happened to me, but it did. And as a result of that, I am this, that, and the other. You know, and then all the feelings that come up with that for some people, that is no, I'm not, that's giving in. And if I do that, I'm not strong.
Yeah.
And if I cry about it, if I share about it, if I have any type of emotional reaction to it, then something is wrong with me. And I think it's the complete opposite, because we can't deal with something that we don't process, and we don't process something if we don't talk about it.
Yeah. And I think that's part of the wellness that the ability to be well, I think that we've inherited from the ancestors that we don't think about. Like the free part of being free is the ability to be vulnerable, the ability to cry, right? The ability to deal with the traumas that they weren't able to deal with. They can't do anything about their babies being sold off or their husbands being sold off or having these weird marriages that the state doesn't acknowledge later. Like there was nothing they could do about that. And so I think as us being their descendants, they did what they had to do to survive to get us to this point. But I feel like they would want us to be dealing with the stuff in a way that they just were not able to deal with, because they like, we got to pick this cotton. People might get lynched today. People might get whipped today, right? Like we survived the day. That's really the point. Made it through exactly. Nobody got sold. Nothing crazy happened. But I really feel like that's part of their legacy for us that they wanted, that we can deal with these things, that we can rest, that we can stop and be like, let me shut it all down. They did not have those options or those luxuries, I guess, at that point, which is really just being a human. And I think that's the thing that we're not getting in our heads. Is like, they did not have the ability to be fully human.
Yeah.
And we have the ability to be fully human. So why would we not embrace that? Yeah.
Right.
Okay, we're coming to a close, but we're getting back on the generational wellness kick, but thank you. So these are sort of, again, we're sort of defining.
Just said reset. It was funny.
Defining, create generational wellness principles, tenets, etc. So we created this thing called Top 5 Create Generational Wellness Resets. So we're just gonna run through them, and then we just need you to vouch for them. As a
okay. Let me see. I think I can do that. Let me see.
So our number one reset is who got your back, right? So this is about leaning on, as you mentioned, your support system, your trusted friends and family, because we have chats that we've done about like who is to be trusted and who is not. I think sometimes, especially as Black people, we just talk to whoever's around, but they might not be as healthy, or they might be as unhealthy as you are, and then you telling your secrets to people who are not trustworthy. Or we say a mental health professional or someone of your choice that is, again, someone you said you don't have an intimate relationship with, therefore they might be able to give insight.
Objective.
Objective. Does that sound like something you could?
I absolutely vouch for that. Absolutely. And if you have if you're blessed to have both, then amen.
Amen.
The trusted support, the trusted family and friends, and the professional.
Listen, we don't always deal with that. Number 2, where's your head at? So this is recognizing and coping with your negative thoughts. Sort of starting with the practice of thinking about how a new situation can inspire either positive change in as much detail as you can, but also I think it's kind of the pros con list, the negative side of things. I love that you pointed out though, because we usually probably point to that in a negative context, but also having the balance, right, of the positive. So this is doing the things that you need to do to be able to recognize that the glass is half empty and half full, not just one thing or the other. You don't want to be all negative and you don't want to be all positive. You want to find both things.
Yes.
Can we vouch for that?
I can absolutely vouch for that.
All right. Number 3, reflection is key. Thinking about your positive past experiences, and this is the practice of positive self-talk, which you've also mentioned in the episode, so that you're just not, again, surviving, but thriving beyond your current challenge, the current change that you're looking at. And it's sort of the practice of proving to yourself that you've been flexible, right? Or you come from flexible people. Therefore, you can do it again. Okay. This is not just a one-time deal, but you might have to, again, the adjustment. What's the thing we always say about it takes how many touch points before you get to something positive?
So if you hear one negative thing, it takes 5 positive things to undo that negative feeling and what it did to you. So that's really important for people to know. Again, when you're talking about conversation, about how you communicate with people and how you talk to people, which I'm really big on, is when you say those things in the heat of the moment or whatever, and realize it's been harmful.
You take it back. Yeah.
You have to pour the positive on top of it if you want to restore the relationship. So, reflection.
Yes. Yeah. Vouched.
Reflection is key. Cool. Number 4, this is all about staying present. Stay present is really the principle. So this is not getting stuck in the past, like we've been talking about, or lost in the future, because I used to be that person too. Where you just are always concerned about what's happening, super focused on that you're not taking inventory or stock of what's actually happening around you. So you got to ground yourself in the present moment. I've said on this podcast, I think grounding myself made me boring in a lot of ways. Like I used to just be so much more imaginative and excited about life, but also I was also depressed about my life currently because I was always thinking about the future and what it was going to look like. If it didn't look like that, so it's just the principle of not letting the what ifs distract you from what is. So that you can actually fully embrace what's going on around you. Can you vouch for those? And do you have any?
Absolutely vouch. I love it. Yes, yes.
Yes, and you can, and then with that, you can handle the ability to cope with the changes. Okay, you can be flexible. All right.
Of course. Right.
And number 5. Okay, we always talk about this. This is our rounding out our top 5. We off perfection. Okay, perfectionism. As a recovering perfectionist, it don't make no sense, right? Like you're always gonna be uncertain, whatever, like however you put all the things together, some always gonna go wrong. It's never gonna turn out exactly the way that you think. So trying to get into any level of perfectionism is like, it's like cement. You don't have any room to grow, you don't have nowhere to go, you don't have nothing to do. You're always like trying to stay in this place, which we know is inevitable. Like that can't happen. Something is going to change. And yeah, it limits your ability to consider other possibilities because you are always trying to maintain this or get to the next place of perfection without dealing with the other stuff.
It makes you so laser focused in only one direction.
Yeah.
And when something else is coming from somewhere else, you can't even see it because.
And it might be a good thing. It might be a very good thing, but you are so
laser focused,
one-minded, you can't let it in.
All right, we're rounding out the end here. So pretty much Truthful Chats is all in creating generational wellness. It's all about emotional mastery, right? At the end of the day. So we're trying to get to we talked about this already, identifying your emotional triggers, helping you to manage your reactions to things so you can make more informed decisions so you're not hijacked by your nervous system, all those kind of things. So emotional steadiness is what we're looking for. We've talked about a lot of tools to do that today. But can you just speak to the people? We always want to encourage them. It's an ongoing practice. Like, you're not going to do this one time and then you're going to be like, I'm cured of all my things ever. Just ask somebody who does this for a living. Okay.
So taking care of yourself emotionally and psychologically is a lifelong journey. It is a lifelong journey. You have to be patient. You have to give yourself grace. You have to be able to forgive yourself. I think it is important that you understand, as with most things, you're not going to get some things. I'm not going to even say right. I'm not going to give right or wrong any power here, but some things are not going to get where you're trying to get them the way that you are trying to get them there. And you have to be flexible in order to be resilient. I mean, y'all did really just summed it all up in this. And I love that I was asked to be a part of this Tenet, because this, I've been, but I don't break. What is we talking about? If that is not what I'm constantly reminding myself and trying to remind my children of, I don't know what is, but I think in order to even embrace the idea of that I will not break. I'm going to bend. I'm going to be uncomfortable. I'm going to be wishing I wasn't in this particular space at this particular time. But it's going to look different in the future. It's not going to always be this way. I'm going to grow as a result of this. I'm going to learn something about myself as a result of this. I'm going to learn something about somebody else as a result of this. Thank you, Lord, for showing that to me, whatever, good, bad, or indifferent, right? So I think the biggest thing that I can say you need to give yourself is time and forgiveness. Because really, I think sometimes we're our worst enemy. We let other folks all in our head and all the things, but really it's us too. And if we really work on that relationship that we have with ourselves, it would be really hard for somebody else to come in and undo the work that we've already done. They can, but it'd make it just a little bit harder.
Right. It might take a little more time. We got to do a little more Jedi mind trick situation.
But there's no end game. Like I'm not, you ain't going to have it at all three of us are different ages right here. And we all still on this journey and will be. So there's no end game. Right. And because we keep being thrown all these different balls with life, of course, we got to catch them and then figure out, how that affects us at any given time. So just know that it's a process and commit to that. We commit to all kind of other stuff and people
all the time.
And
yeah, and I think that's why Truthful Chats is important, like you said, because we all are different ages, but all still going through the same stuff. It's just called being human. But that's why these kind of chats and stuff are important, so people know, like, oh, I'm normal. This is not. I'm not a weirdo. There's nothing strange happening to me. Like, this is just a very normal thing.
And we are not by ourselves in that.
We're not by ourselves. Community is important. As a person who used to try to reject that openly, it's a lie. Community, people, you need other people. I know it's hard.
Right.
Barbara Streisand.
Sometimes you don't need them all. Listen, you don't need them all the time, but there's a time when you can't just thug it out. Last question,
which you kind of answered.
Button it up. Any other things you have to say about instilling you bend, you don't break into your children? And then what does create generational wellness? Like, what does that term mean to you? What does it mean for the Shanks family? Like, how do y'all work on that?
So we, first, how I think I try to instill that in my kids and my husband, low key, because he will keep it in. He will lock it up and hold it tight. Y'all know him. It's literally about having conversations about how things make them feel, about what they're experiencing. It seems really little. It seems like it's something that we probably all take for granted, or we do it. But I mean, be intentional about how you talk about what you're going through. When we come home from all different times of our day, like, we stop and, phones down, and I'm not, it's not a real formal. I mean, they come on, they 20 and 25, whatever. I don't know. Phones is always in the hand, but it's like, no, how was your day? I don't settle for it was all right, good, bad. Give me some more. I don't settle for one word, because I know it was more than this one word. Right. How you're feeling about something. It's a fine line. You gotta be willing to give your family members what they need, when and how they need it. So I know my kids, Spencer don't want to talk about stuff. She don't want to talk about it, and leave her be. But we've created, all of us have created an environment where she will come back and she will come around when she's ready. That's usually just some hours later. Sometimes it can be a couple days, but I'm eventually going to know something. And if not, somebody else is. I do think I try to stress to them the importance of not keeping things inside and bottled up. I think that creates a sense of not feeling feeling heard or seen. And that feeling and that thought process can lead to a whole bunch of other behaviors that can be troublesome. I think it sends a message of what you do feel and what you are experiencing does not matter, because you never really get a chance to talk about it. And then I think of what it just does to you physically. Everything that goes in is supposed to go out. Like, that's just how our bodies were designed, and our feelings and our emotions and our experiences are no different than the food we eat or the water we drink. Right. If it comes in, it's got to go out some kind of way and through some healthy channel. So I think
I love it. Y'all are creating a family culture of creating generational wellness,
which is what we want for everybody.
Okay. Get it how you live. Right?
Just take care of yourself. That's my biggest thing as far as the generational wellness, like self-care. I know it's a buzzword, but it's an action word to me.
It's a real word.
It's a real word. It's an action word. You have to do that. You have to be intentional. Be intentional about how you care for yourself. You're intentional in the relationships with others that you show up in. You don't deserve any less. You actually deserve more.
Amen.
So
I think that's it.
Well, thanks. We appreciate you being here.
Thank you guys for having me.
Thank you so much.
It was amazing. You killed it. It's fantastic. One take Drake, okay? It's amazing. So y'all put your hands together. Thank Tiffany Shanks for being here. Licensed.
Thank you guys for what you're doing.
Where can the people find you if they want to?
The people can find me at TiffanyShanksTherapy.com.
I love it. Super.
You can also find me on Psychology Today. You can also find me on therapyforblackgirls.com.
All right. We'll put that out.
Thank you for what you're doing. Please keep it up. I love y'all deep, and I'll see y'all tomorrow.
All right.
Bye. Y'all, amazing. Incredible, right? This was our second Tenet. You bend, you don't break. So many gems, so many important things were said. Y'all have to go back. Y'all have to go back on both of these, okay? The melanin and the degrees, the melanin degrees in therapy, we added a third one today, have been incredible, okay? And we're not done yet. We
have 2 more therapists this month.
April's Liddy in the city. But you're not gonna know what's going on. If you're not subscribed on the YouTube channel, follow us on IG, Facebook, fan base. We're at Create Generational Wellness on all of the platforms. Tell a friend to tell a friend. Come back next week. Bring somebody. We're on the internets for a reason, so we can be with you wherever you are. Okay, and whatever you're going through, whenever you're going through something, because life is going to be life. So with that, we will bid you adieu. If you're in the auditory universe, please rate, review, do all that fun stuff, and we love y'all. We'll see y'all next week.
Love y'all. Bye.